Welcome everyone to another episode of Your Lab Central. Today I'm joined with Ian. So, Ian, would you like to tell our audience why they should be excited about this conversation today?
Well, you know, when you're trying to grow your business, um, one of the things that you're trying to do is you're trying to figure out what's the best way to communicate what my business is all about and what my products or services are about.
Yeah.
And that's usually a process of trying to figure out, create a list of all the features and benefits
Hmm.
of what you do, and then you sell based on the features and benefits. And the problem with that process, which by the way is the way 99% of companies sell, so it works, you know
Yeah.
but it just doesn't work that well.
Hmm.
And because 99% of the world is doing that, they don't see how effective the other 1% of the world is and how they should be doing it.
Yeah.
So the reason why a laundry list of features and benefits is not a helpful way to sell is because, let's say I'm saying, feature and benefit number one is this to you. I'm trying to sell you something, right? And I'm going through the laundry list. You're sitting there thinking, how does this help me? What's the relevance? Is this something that I should buy?
Right.
And so what I'm doing is I'm giving you facts that you then interpret
That's right.
to see whether or not those facts are relevant to you. So I've lost control of the sales process because you're the one doing the interpreting
Hmm.
to see if what I'm selling is useful to you.
That's right.
And so what a something that is central to what I do
Hmm.
is probably, if I could leave one legacy to the business community,
Hmm.
it is the understanding that what you're selling is fundamental. Sorry, what the customer is buying from you is fundamentally different
That's
than
right.
what you're selling. And when you are selling from the standpoint of features and benefits, you know what you're selling, and you may be doing a very effective job of
Yeah.
selling those features and benefits. But what the customer is buying is something different.
That's right.
And when you can figure out what the customer is buying,
Hmm.
then you will sell differently and you will sell more effectively.
Yeah.
And that's what the 1% is doing. They're figuring out what the customer is buying, and they are completely reorienting their company
Hmm.
around what the customer is buying, not what they're selling.
Hmm.
That's why I think people should stick around and listen to the rest of the podcast.
All right. So when we talk about this change in perspective, right? If I look at myself as a customer trying to buy something, I'm looking at the value that it brings to my life. And essentially, isn't that what we are trying to drive at? Is it some, or we are looking at probably a higher purpose? I don't know. It's just coming to my mind because I see purpose you on my screen. So is it some in that direction that you that we are going to talk about?
Well, a guy who explains the answer to your question better than I do is Simon Sinek. Do you know the book Start with Why by Simon Sinek?
No, I'm not aware about it.
Okay, so I would suggest you and any of your listeners, if they don't know Start with Why, which was a
Right.
hugely best-selling
Hmm.
business, don't buy the book. Simon would kill me. Simon would kill me if he heard me say that. But he did a TED talk
Uh-huh.
maybe 15 years ago.
Okay.
It's 18 minutes long, and
Yeah.
it is absolutely brilliant. And one of the key points in his TED talk is people don't buy what you do, they
Yes.
buy why you do it.
Okay.
They buy into why you are doing what you do, and therefore they buy your products,
Hmm.
right? So, a great example is Nike.
Hmm.
Why does Nike make sports apparel, right? Because Nike is all about just do it.
Yeah.
So, sure, the shoes have features and benefits. And yes, you will evaluate those features and benefits to see if you want to buy those shoes.
Yeah.
Why is Nike one of the companies on your running shoe list? Or why is Nike the only company that
Mhm.
you would consider when buying running shoes? As I do when buying computers. No question, I'm buying an Apple. It's
Mhm.
just which Apple, right? So um, the reason that Nike is on your list is because you buy into just do it. You
Mhm.
think of yourself as a just do it person,
Mhm.
and therefore you buy their just do it products. And
Right.
when you do, when people see that logo, the reason everybody in Hollywood uses Apple computers in their movies and TV shows
Yeah.
is because when they see the logo on the back of the computer, there's a cachet to that that reflects on the person who is using it. They wear it like a badge.
Mhm.
People wear the Nike logo on their shoes, on their shirts, on their pants, everything, because they're making a statement about who they are. They
Yeah.
are making a statement that says they are a just do it person.
Mhm.
That's what everybody is buying from Nike. So this is a great example.
Mhm.
What is Nike selling? Sporting apparel, sporting, tools, all that
Mhm.
stuff. And all of those things have features and benefits.
Yeah.
But what is the customer buying? They're buying just do it. When they choose Nike, they're buying just do it. Because I can guarantee you, whatever Nike shoe they're buying, there's a Adidas, there's a Puma, there's an Asics that's just as good.
Mhm. Now, it's somewhat, I mean, getting this connect of philosophy and purpose a little simpler when there's only one decision maker in the D2C space, or say direct when you have just one consumer, right, trying to sell a product. But when we talk about B2B, right, where there is a whole group of people trying to make that decision, that buying decision for you of your product or your services, okay, and they have their own laundry list of budget, features, capabilities, and whatnot. How do you translate this purpose into the whole gamut of laundry list capabilities, checklists that you have to follow from a vendor perspective?
Perfect question. So I'm going to give you a case study first and then use that case
Mhm.
study to answer your question. So I was having breakfast with this guy. He was the CEO and owner of a retail shelving company. Like Home Depot goes and they put up a box. He goes in and he puts up all the rack shelving. And when he's done, the store opens.
Yeah.
And he said, I know there's a magic to my company, but every time I open my mouth to talk about it, it sounds so generic, so banal, so like anything any of my competitors can say.
Mhm.
And I said to him, John, it's because you don't know what business you're really in. I mean, John knows he's in the business of retail shelving, but inside that sandbox, he doesn't know what little area he owns,
Mhm.
right? He doesn't know what it is that makes him uniquely remarkable
Mhm.
in that sandbox.
Mhm.
And so I said, it's because you don't know what business you're really in. And he said, you're right. I don't know what business I'm really in.
Mhm.
So he embarked on a blueprint. Now, a blueprint, the process my company does, has three parts to it.
Okay.
The first thing we do is we define at your essence the one thing
Right.
that makes you uniquely remarkable. It's
Mhm.
your superpower, the reason you exist.
Yeah.
And once we have that short expression defined in 7 words or less of what makes you uniquely remarkable,
Mhm.
we then use that to design how the company is going to communicate all its branding, marketing, and sales, and
Mhm.
then design how it's going to operate, how it's going to
Right.
develop and deliver its products, what its structure is, and all that sort of thing. But what that means is that all the activities of the company, everything it does and everything it says flows from a clear knowledge of that one thing that makes the company uniquely remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
So John decides to do a blueprint, and it's him and a bunch of his senior executives,
Yeah.
and they talk. And I said, or where the conversation got interesting
Mm-hmm.
was when they talked about how they had been in business for 3 generations, right? Like not 3 decades, 3 generations.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that longevity, they had developed techniques and processes and systems and procedures that allowed them to get finished significantly faster.
Uh-huh.
You can imagine if they get a Home Depot finished a month faster than a competitor,
Mm-hmm.
store is going to open a month sooner than expected. And
Yeah,
that's going to be a month of retail sales
that's right.
that was unanticipated by Home Depot. And that's about $2 million a week is my understanding of the average revenue of a Home Depot.
Yeah.
So as we're having this conversation about getting finished faster, one of his VPs, he just says this as a joke. He says, on our sign where it says opening soon, he
Mm-hmm.
said, I want ours to say opening sooner.
That's right.
And I just went, that's brilliant. That is just so brilliant. And that became the
Mm-hmm.
2 word expression
Mm-hmm.
of what made them uniquely remarkable. So you remember when John said, I don't know what business I'm in. I mean, he knew he was in the business of retail shelving, but
Yeah.
what little corner did he own? He owned the getting it finished faster corner, as expressed by opening sooner.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are the VP of construction at Home Depot,
Yeah.
you've got 2 things you care about at the end of the day, which is staying on budget and staying on time. Staying on budget, you're accountable to the CEO and the CFO. Staying on time, you're accountable to the CEO, the CFO, the COO, the
Yeah.
chief marketing officer, the store manager, all the construction teams, internal and external, that are going into that opening day. If you have to delay that opening day, that goes click, 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 click back through everybody's project
Yeah.
management timeline. And now you've got them all angry at you.
Yeah.
So it's arguable that staying on time causes the VP of construction as much gray hair
Mm-hmm.
as staying on budget.
Yeah.
And when you have a retail shelving supplier come into you and say, and lead what they're telling you with, we're all about opening sooner. That's our purpose as a business, is opening sooner. That explodes in the head of the VP of construction because he or she already feels the anxiety. They live the anxiety every day of
Mm-hmm.
making sure they hit that opening day. And all of a sudden, someone comes in and says, I'm going to beat that opening day.
Okay.
And the VP of construction goes, oh my God, you understand my business. You understand my anxiety. Tell me more. Or they'll say, what does that mean?
Yes.
But they know what it means. When
Mm.
they say, what does that mean? They're really saying, tell me more.
Yeah.
This is so interesting. All right. So, what's important about opening sooner is that when John walked into the office of the VP of construction, the VP of construction had everything that you said in your question. They have all their criteria, they have all their plans, they have all their everything. And opening sooner is like, that's great. You're going to take all of that into account and you're going to get us open sooner. You're going to get us finished faster.
That's right.
So, how it worked in reality is that John put this on his LinkedIn profile.
Mm-hmm.
And some mid level person in the construction department at Best Buy
Mm-hmm.
sent him a message on LinkedIn and said, hey, this opening sooner thing sounds interesting. Can you come out here and talk
Yeah.
to us about and explain it to us more? Now, Best Buy is or was, I believe, their head office is in Vancouver.
Hmm.
And John was on the other side of the company, 5,000 kilometers away.
Right.
Pardon me. And so John flies to Vancouver, and he's got a mid-afternoon meeting with what he thinks is the mid-level manager, construction manager, and her
Yeah.
boss, right? Because you know the process. You get
Yes.
in at mid-level and you start working your way up until you get up to the real key decision makers, right?
Yeah.
No, he was escorted into the executive boardroom, and the CEO and the entire senior management team,
Hmm.
Best Buy, was in that boardroom waiting to hear him.
Right.
All on the power of two words,
Mm.
opening sooner. So John is in there for an hour and a half. The opening sooner presentation is 10 minutes. How long does it take to explain that, right?
Yeah.
It's so simple and so self evident. And so, John, now it's later that night. John's back at the airport. He's taking the red eye home. But before he leaves, they say, "Thank you very much for that presentation. We'll get back to you." And we all know what "we'll get back to you" means, right?
Yeah.
It means one of two things: you'll never hear from us again, or you'll hear from us in 6 to 12 months when we get our act together. So John is sitting in the airport at about 10 p.m. later that night, and he gets a call from Best Buy who
Okay.
said, "We loved the conversation.
Hmm.
We have an $800,000 store renovation for you to do. And
Hmm.
if you do well on that, there's more to come."
Right.
So that was 15, a little over 15 years ago, and Best Buy is still a client. But
Mm.
again, Best Buy has all their criteria. They are an experienced retailer.
That's.
They are experienced at building out retail spaces.
Hmm.
But still, the allure,
Yeah.
appeal of opening sooner
Hmm.
just trumps all of that.
Hmm.
Because it assumes, well, you're experienced, you know the business, you're going to take all our criteria into account, and you're going to get us open sooner at
Yeah.
the same time.
Uh-huh.
So that's how it works.
Hmm.
And if you know I don't know what it's called, if it's called a story. So it's the story about the three blind people, where they've got blindfolds on,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and they're feeling an elephant, and one
Ah,
grabs the
yes,
trunk.
yes, yes. That's
You
right.
know this, right? One
Yes.
grabs the trunk and says, "It's a hose,"
Yeah.
and one's feeling the side and says, "No, it's just a
Wall.
rough wall,"
Yeah.
and the other grabs the tail and says, "No, it's a rope." Well, that's what the process of trying to figure out your value is like as an
Hmm.
organization with products and services. Is, well, let's try this because research says this. Let's try that. Let's try being a trunk. Okay, now let's try being a rope. Okay, now let's try being a wall. When the appeal is
Uh-huh.
being the whole elephant, but you can't see the whole elephant
Yeah.
because you're looking at it through the perspective of what you're selling and not what the customer is buying.
Hmm.
What the customer at Home Depot and Best Buy are buying from John
Hmm.
is opening sooner,
Right. Right.
not the features and benefits.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, and this is really important. So this is something that um, really pay attention to this. When John walks in and he says, "We're all about opening sooner, getting finished faster," and the VP of construction, it just explodes in her head. She now wears opening sooner, like listening filters on her ears because she's so taken by it.
Hmm.
And then John starts reciting those features and benefits, the ones that I poo pooed before as being not effective.
Yeah.
But now you're not using them to sell directly, you're
Yeah.
using them to give credibility to opening sooner.
Yeah.
So, so when the VP of construction says, "Well, tell me more," John says, "We have a special way of hiring people. So
Hmm.
we get the people who work most efficiently." And she's sitting there saying, "I get how that contributes to opening sooner." And
Yeah.
then he says, "We train them in this special way so that they're not only working faster,
Hmm.
but they're also figuring out how to innovate in ways so that we get you finished even faster. And she says, oh, yeah, I get how that contributes to opening sooner. So the opening sooner listening filter elevates the power
Uh-huh.
of features and benefits
That's
because now they're not just something that barfed out on the table and someone's got to figure out what they mean to them.
yeah.
Now they are proof points
Yes.
for the one thing that makes you uniquely remarkable, opening sooner in the case of my client John.
Right. Thanks for that. I mean, I just can say thank you at this point for explaining it in s- uh, in such a short time, in so much detail, and trying to bring value to this. So, from the perspective of your own company, right? Now we talked about this whole purpose breaking down into what we're selling and talking about it, communicating, right? So how have you been communicating this to the world at large? I did check, try to go through what you've been doing. I read that you work with 400 CEOs across different industries. So, how have you been taking your message out to the world? Has it been through conventions, social media? What's working for you?
Um, Traditional sort of consumer social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all that sort of thing, is not really relevant to what I'm selling
Yeah.
because I'm selling B2B.
Yeah.
So LinkedIn is the social media that I use for selling.
Hmm.
And I've got a whole bunch of different ways. I worked with a company that amplifies your social media message for about 9 months.
Uh-huh.
And I learned a lot of tricks for different ways that
Hmm.
I can sell on LinkedIn. And so that's what I'm doing. Now, something that's really important to know about my selling effort is
Hmm.
there's only one buyer for what I do, and that's the CEO.
Yeah.
And sadly, that is, for me, that is the most difficult target group to reach because there are so many gatekeepers around.
Yeah.
Now, I also um, the the next level down, the C-suite, the executive suite, is also a great place for me to fish
Yeah.
for business
Hmm.
because they won't be the buyers, but if I can get them intrigued, they'll take it to the CEO. So, for instance, depending on what time of day it is, or at least back then, the largest or second largest gold company in the world
Uh-huh.
was Goldcorp.
Hmm.
Coincidentally, Goldcorp works out of Vancouver as well, but it's because Canada is, such a huge mining and resource country. And and it was the VP of HR who
Right.
approached us. And he said, "Can you blueprint? Blueprint is the name of my company, but it's also the name of the process.
Hmm.
You know, define what makes you uniquely remarkable, have it design everything you do and say." Um, uh, so he said, "Can you blueprint just HR?"
Right.
And I said, "No, and yes, because the blueprint is for the entire organization. That's what you're trying to capture
Hmm.
is what is it that makes the entire organization uniquely remarkable. Now, once we get that, what my hope is that you're going to use that to guide how you operate the company. You're going to use that in the creation of your brand and to help you to market and sell your company
Yeah.
and how to create a really dynamic and enabling
Hmm.
culture.
Hmm.
But you can choose once you have a blueprint for a whole company to just exercise it through HR,
Yeah.
right? The rest of the company doesn't use it, but
Yeah.
HR does in order to help retain people, but also to help attract people.
Right. Hmm.
And in that, by the way,
Yeah.
the retaining and attracting, the counter to that is rejecting, right? Attracting, rejecting. And excuse me, the thing that we all know about that both attracts and repels is a magnet. We
Yeah.
think of a magnet as something that attracts, but the other side of the magnet repels as much as, one side attracts.
Yeah.
And so that's what
Hmm.
your purpose statement, your 7 words or less, does for you. So if you think back to John, opening sooner. So it takes a special kind of person to work at
Yeah.
an opening sooner company,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Can't be the kind of person who wants to just clock in at 9 and leave at
Yeah.
5 and doesn't care, right?
That's
They've
right.
got to be ambitious. They've got to be. So when you hear the opening sooner story, if you're, let's say, John is hiring people, and you as a person who might want to work there, you look at the company
Hmm.
and what opening sooner means. And you're likely going to say one of two things. Oh, I want to be a part of that, or oh, that's not for me.
Too much effort, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what has happened there has been a pre-screen of
Hmm.
your prospects. The
Yes.
ones who are not appropriate for you, not all of them, but a bunch of the prospects that are not appropriate for you have said, "Oh, I'm not appropriate in that environment."
Yeah.
And so they didn't waste your time by
Yeah.
submitting a resume.
Hmm.
Um,
So yeah.
yeah, so it's a great way to filter and sift through prospects.
Mhm. I do agree with that. I mean, obviously, there's a lot to agree with over here because once you have a purpose in mind, once the company has identified the purpose that's driving them forward, and then you have that purpose driving your processes, it drives your brand, and then it leads, that purpose leads the conversation even before the conversation has started. And that's what we are talking about, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
And it will precede whatever efforts you have to put before getting into a boardroom or even getting into the mind of the consumer itself. So makes a lot of sense.
I heard a great metaphor for what you're saying.
Hmm.
I took this course in university. It was a philosophy course,
Uh-huh.
and it was on a book.
Hmm.
Not this book is the textbook for this course. The course was actually on the book.
Okay.
And the author, the book was called Gödel, Escher, and Bach. Gödel was a German mathematician who came up with a theorem that rocked the whole world, not just the math world.
Yeah.
Escher is that guy who does the mind-bending art, and Bach is the guy who had some success on the piano. And he described them as three different shadows cast from the same stone. And
Okay.
the book attempted to describe what the stone is.
Hmm.
And what I say is that the stone is your purpose, right? As a company,
Yeah.
what's that stone? That's your purpose. And every shadow of the company should be cast from that purpose. Whether that shadow could be HR, it could be product development, it could be regulatory, it could be accounting, it could be
Marketing.
product development, everything.
Yeah.
Everything is a shadow that can be traced back to the same stone. And when you can articulate the stone in your business, the one thing that makes you uniquely remarkable,
Hmm.
then you can make sure that everything that you do is a shadow cast from what makes you uniquely remarkable.
Hmm. All right. Now, I think that has beautifully concluded the whole conversation, right? Because we started from what we wanted to talk about, right? Making what defined the company and what was the unique proposition, and then we went into this whole conversation about about from Nike to your client to another client of yours, and you created the whole value that came out of it. Thank you so much for joining me in on this
My
episode.
pleasure. My pleasure.
Uh, it's been a wonderful conversation. We've gone full circle and come back to the starting point again, and it's lovely to see that we've had this conversation in this form. I mean, it's very difficult that something like this comes across, right? So thanks for that. To the audience who've been listening and watching, if you liked our conversation, do leave a like. The comment section is always open. If you have a question or if you liked some part of the what we talked about, do leave a comment. You can add to the conversation as well, and don't forget to subscribe before you close. Ian, before we close, where can people get in touch with you, and if they want to know more about what you're doing?
Right. They can get in touch with me at 7words.biz. That's the number seven, WORDS words dot BIZ or BIZ as Americans say it.
All right. I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn since you mentioned you do a lot.
That'd be great.
Yeah. So yeah, I hope a lot of people get in touch with you. And thank you so much for joining me, and thank you so much again. And
Thank you very much.
thank you so much.